you're dealing with MS, Ginger's dealing with porphyria, and I'm sure there's an incredible amount of understanding from both of you for what both of you are going through.
To set off your MS that you already have it. It's predisposed, but something's got to happen. I'm the only person in the family that's ever been a fighter pilot.
How do you function as just the best caretaker you can be? What would you tell somebody?
My personality, obviously, as a military guy, I'm usually more type A. I don't tend to complain, even though I want to, because I was raised in a household that if you complain, you're whining. You tell me you know what you're doing, but you're showing me you don't know what you're doing, and you're just charging my insurance more money
Right.
for stuff that doesn't need to be done. Could you tell I was getting a little frustrated during that conversation? I can feel it. I can feel it building up in me.
Yeah. Welcome to Rarely Discussed, an American Porphyria Foundation podcast with your hosts, Andrew McManaman
and Nicole Castellano.
We have porphyria, a rare disease. Rare diseases differ greatly but share many similarities in how they affect our lives.
Being rare can feel lonely and isolating, but we're stronger together. Join us in meaningful interviews with porphyria and rare disease experts and the patients and families impacted as we connect, learn, and heal together.
We'll talk diagnosis, treatment, pain, mental health, managing daily life, and everything rare. Today's guest brings a powerful perspective to the rare disease community, not only as a caregiver, but as a decorated veteran, leader, and advocate. Charles E. Davis Sr., known as Digger, served 25 years in the United States Air Force, retiring as a lieutenant colonel and highly experienced F-16 command pilot with 115 combat missions, 7 air medals, and the Distinguished Flying Cross with Valor. His military career ended unexpectedly after a diagnosis of relapse remitting multiple sclerosis, or MS, as we all know it, in 2009, a condition he continues to manage with resilience and ongoing treatment. After retiring from both military service and later civilian defense contracting, Digger made the life-changing decision in 2023 to fully retire in order to become the full-time caretaker for his wife, Ginger, whose acute intermittent porphyria went undiagnosed for nearly 31 years before finally being identified. He also serves on the American Porphyria Foundation's member advisory board, using his experience to help guide and support other families navigating rare disease. Digger, welcome to the Rarely Discussed podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here and glad to be a part.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million things to unpack. I mean, you have the MS diagnosis, you're a caretaker, you have that veteran background. So I wanted to, before we kind of dive into the caretaking aspect, I wanted to kind of dive into your MS battle too, and just kind of how that journey began for you.
Well, it was, there's nobody else in my family that's been diagnosed with MS that I'm aware of. And just as kind of thinking back, the doctors and the people that evaluated me seem to think that, you need an environmental trigger to set off your MS that you already have it. It's predisposed, but something's got to happen. I'm the only person in the family that's ever been a fighter pilot. I'm the only person that's ever been flying around and pulling 10 Gs. So kind of the gray matter being slammed around inside of my skull, that seems like a pretty good trigger if you're going to have MS, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I wasn't diagnosed until 2009 when I started losing my vision significantly. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I had blind spots in both eyes, and I had no idea why. But going back to even to 1999, I was stationed in Italy, and I was supposed to go flying that night, and I was having some really weird vision issues, and I don't know why. No pain, but like I couldn't focus, and part of my vision off to the side was like gone. So obviously I didn't fly that night because I couldn't see, but the Air Force sent me to an Italian doctor, neurologist who spoke English, of course, and he did an evaluation, and the only thing he could come up with was, he said, it appears you had a migraine without the pain. And I said, and this is 1999. I went, do not put that in my medical records. The military will hate me. Do not do that. He goes, okay, I won't do that. But he said, did anybody ever tell you that one pupil is larger than the other? I go, no, I never had any doctor tell me that. He goes, that's usually a sign of a neurological condition, but don't worry about it. I'm like, okay. So 5 years later, so that goes away. That goes away in 24 hours. 5 years later, I'm stationed in Las Vegas at Nellis Air Force Base. And from my left hip all the way down my left leg along the front, I had about a 2-inch strip of skin that was completely numb. It was weird from my hip down to my foot.
Yeah.
Uh, so the Air Force put me through an MRI. They checked my back. They didn't check my brain. They only checked my back. And they said, yeah, your back, from all the G forces, it's probably 10 years older than you. You might have pinched something, but we don't see anything else. Okay. About a week, it went away, gone. And then 5 years later, I had this vision issue that I couldn't explain. And here's a funny thing, Andrew. As a military pilot, you don't ever want to be taken off the schedule. So when you're having a health issue, this is what we would normally do. We would call our flight doc or flight surgeon that took care of us, and we usually went third person sort of description. So I called my my flight doc, and her nickname was Heidi, and I said, "Hey, just for giggles, if I told you this, I was having some vision thing, what would you think?" And she immediately goes, "Digger, you get your butt over to the flight medicine office at Nellis right now, because I'm calling them and you better show up." So that was 2009, and that's what started the diagnosis to my MS, because I saw a ophthalmologist and an optometrist at Nellis Air Force Base, and they said, your eyes are fine. There's nothing wrong with your eyes, and there's nothing wrong with your optic nerve. He said, whatever it is, it's in your brain. I'm like, well, that's not good. So they immediately sent me back to my home station at the time, which was in Florida. And I still had the vision issue. It was still going on, wasn't going away. And I saw a neurologist there, and they said they did an MRI, and they saw the lesion in my brain that was actually responsible for my vision. It was active, which doesn't occur that often. You don't usually get to see the active lesions in your brain with MS. So it's a hot spot on the MRI, and the radiologist said, hey, this guy had a stroke. The neurologist goes, you're an idiot. Have you looked at this guy? He goes, he's not overweight. He doesn't smoke. He stays in shape. He goes, and the signal's not right. That's not a stroke. He said, we need to send him to University of Alabama, Birmingham neurology right now. So I have to drive myself from Fort Walton Beach to Birmingham, Alabama. It's only about 4 hours. I can't see that well. It's all good. And Dr. Bashir was the head of neurology for multiple sclerosis there, but he wasn't telling me he was checking me for MS. He goes, I'm going to do this, and and he did these things where, oh man, you basically look at a checkerboard and then they inverse the picture back and forth real fast to measure how fast your eyeball sees it to when your brain responds to it.
Interesting.
Good thing I don't have any hair, because they were sticking all these things to my scalp. And he said, anybody ever tell you have latency in your vision? I go, no. What do you mean latency? He goes, normally it takes about 95 milliseconds from when your eye sees something to your brain interprets what it is. He goes, yours is at 130 milliseconds. I go, wow, well, of course, I'm thinking milliseconds. That still seems pretty fast, but yeah. I guess between 95 to 130, that's not good. And then he did an MRI of my brain, and then he started giving me IV steroids for about 3 days, and then my vision started coming back after the steroids. And then after that happened, then he sat me down and he says, okay. He goes, you have about 7 lesions on your brain. I go, okay, what do we do about it? He goes, well, you're not supposed to have lesions on your brain. I go, okay. I've never seen my brain on an MRI before.
Right.
He goes, those aren't normal. You're not supposed to have that. I said, okay. He says, I am, because of everything you described, you have multiple sclerosis. I said, all right. So what do we do about it? Of course, I'm in a flight suit at the time because I drove from Florida up
Hmm.
to Alabama in a flight suit, thinking I'm just being evaluated, and he put
Right.
me in the hospital for 3 days. So he told me this, and he says, "You have MS," and I said, "Okay, what do we do?" He goes, "I want you to start taking this drug called Copaxone." I said, "All right. How long do I have to do that?" And he looks at me, he's like, Digger, this is for the rest of your life. And that's when it hit me. I went, my flying career for the Air Force is done. And that was a tough thing for me to initially swallow because I'm
Hmm.
thinking very selfishly, not that I got to worry about my health. I'm thinking
Hmm.
about not flying F-16s anymore. And I am a Christian, so I have a lot of faith. And after I got through that initial bump of my flying career is over, and then I was met with an overwhelming sensation of this is for a reason. There's something else you're supposed to be doing,
Hmm.
and I didn't know what that meant. And I'll say fast forward to where we are now. I think I now know I have a little more understanding of what he had planned for me. But anyway, the Air Force said we can medically retire you. I had 22 and a half years in at that time, and I just wanted to go 2 more years, and I got complete full 25 years. Um, I had a lot of leaders and commanders that were friends of mine that I'd known for years. They said, "Hey, Air Force says that we can medically retire you, or we can keep you for your final 2 years. What do you want to do?" I said, "Man, I'd like to stay." And my commander at the time, Hans Gant, Hans, of course, is his nickname. He says, "Digger, I want you to go command this squadron over here." He says, "It's a non-flying position, but you have to be a pilot." So, and because of my MS, I was just medically disqualified from flying. I still had my wings. I was still a pilot. I just went through a medical board, not a flying board.
Hmm.
So I was able to be a commander of this electronic warfare squadron, which I know for a fact is extremely busy at the moment for everything that's going on overseas right now because
Yeah.
we were involved in a lot of that kind of stuff. Um, and that was one of my most rewarding positions that I had in the Air Force, taking care of 105 people, making sure that they had everything they needed to be able to provide the mission for the Air Force and for some other countries and stuff like that. I still miss flying, but I tell you, for a way to end my Air Force career of being a leader and helping those that needed to get help, and I had seen enough of that throughout my career. I was going to do my best. It was probably one of the most rewarding careers most rewarding jobs I had to finish out my career. But
And
MS, yeah, I mean, but the MS thing, uh, yeah, it's a nitnoid sort of thing. Thankfully, Ginger and I don't have flares at the same time.
mhm.
And I'm on my third drug therapy. I haven't had a flare since 20. Oh, actually, take that back. I was going to say 21. Actually, I had one in July where I couldn't walk for a little bit. But I take Ocrevus twice a year, the infusion
Mhm.
twice a year, and that's actually been really, really stable for me. So I've been on that since 2021. So we'll just keep on riding this train. It's all good.
Yeah. And with that being said, too, and obviously you're dealing with MS, Ginger's dealing with porphyria, and I'm sure there's an incredible amount of understanding from both of you for what both of you are going through.
Absolutely.
Which, if you can find the good in anything, I guess there's that. But I
Excuse me. I'm
know
sorry.
you were mentioning that the flares weren't happening at the same time, but how does that dynamic work for you both? Just having to deal with your own.
Well, the unfortunate thing is Ginger's porphyria is 10 times worse than what I feel for my MS. If I have pain, it's usually some sort of neuropathy, but I can make it go away usually with IV steroids or, if I get my Ocrevus infusion. But, she'll have a flare or she's having pain without being in a flare. And so I don't have that. If I'm in a flare, that's when I'm going to have my pain. I can still have numbness and tingling and things like that, but I'm usually pretty good. The great thing about us both having, well, hers is more rare than MS, of course, but we have complete understanding. If one of us goes, man, I'm really struggling today, we know that's not just a statement. It is for real. Because if we voice it to each other, we know that we're having a difficult time. The funny thing was when I went to see my neurologist on one of my checkups from my MS, and I'm telling him like, hey, yeah, my wife, Ginger, she got diagnosed with acute intermittent porphyria. He's like, wow. He goes, that's really painful. I go, I know. I said, kind of funny how we both have, this uh, these rare type diseases, and she's got this really nasty one. He goes, well, on the neurology scale, she wins. I go, fine by me. I wasn't counting it as a competition.
Mhm.
But she, um, uh, I think my MS has, I won't say subsided, but because I'm 58 now, the doctor seems to think that I'm probably at the highest point my MS will be,
Mm.
which is fine. If I can keep functioning like this is great. I can still walk, I can still talk, I can still see, because that's going to help me with Ginger and taking care of her, because her pains and her issues are obviously a lot greater than what I had. But when she tells me she's in pain, I completely believe her because I know what neuropathy feels like. I don't have the back pain or the abdomen pain that she does, but when she says she's not feeling good or she's in pain, I can completely understand it because of having MS. And she also knows that if I say something about my MS, then it's starting to affect me. Because usually I won't even say anything to her about it. I'll have restless leg syndrome and I can't keep my legs still, and I'll just get up and start moving. I won't say anything to her about it. Sometimes she'll catch me, and she'll go, "Are you having leg issues?" I go, "Yeah, yeah, it's all right, no big deal." And she's like, "You got to tell me these things." She gets mad at me because I'm always looking after her. I'm always making sure she's good, and I'm never worried about myself. So she catches me on that. But yeah, complete understanding. Since we both have these crazy diseases, I don't know what the chances are that a couple get together. I was already diagnosed when we got together, but then she gets diagnosed with a really nasty rare disease.
Yeah, and it's like you guys are both playing caretaker and patient at the same time. And
Exactly.
I'm just curious, and of course, there's a lot of people watching or listening that are just trying to figure out this caretaker role and how to best approach it. And we've had caretakers on the podcast in the past, of course, and they 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 give their advice about taking care of yourself so you can take care of somebody else. But I wanted to ask you just from your perspective, and of course, dealing with what you're dealing with on top of being a caretaker. How do you function as just the best caretaker you can be? What would you tell somebody?
This is, and of course, this comes back to me personally. My personality, obviously, as a military guy, I'm usually more type A. I don't tend to complain, even though I want to,
Mhm.
because I was raised in a household that if you complain, you're whining. If you're going to complain, you better have a solution sort of mentality.
Mhm.
So, and I've started using the word caregiver now instead of caretaker because I use that forever. But I'm like, I'm not taking care, I'm giving care. So I'm a caregiver. That's what I tell
Yeah.
Ginger now. I'm a
Yeah.
caregiver. So, so as a caregiver, when Ginger's feeling good, I'm feeling good, which automatically helps me. When she's in pain, even though I might not physically feel that pain, I am stressed because I want to help her. Standard guy mentality. I need to fix her.
Mhm.
She doesn't like when I say it, but I'll say it to you as another guy or any other caregiver that's listening as a guy. Um, so I want to help her. And if I know I'm helping her, I feel so much better because one, my wife is my everything. She is my love. And I definitely live by a biblical principle that my wife is my counterpart and I am supposed to take care of her. So when I'm doing that, I feel great. Now, I do have bad days and I will struggle through it to try to help her. And she'll catch me on it. She goes, "You're having a bad day, aren't you?" I go, "Yeah, just my brain's not working. I'm in a bad mood, but I don't have a reason for it because I can talk to her about that." And she usually comes over and she'll start rubbing my head or something like that. And then I feel bad because I'm like, I'm supposed to be taking care of you. And she's like, it's not always going to be that way. If you're having a bad day and I'm okay, I want to be able to take care of you too. And then I get upset and I'm like, it's not supposed to be that way. You have the worst disease. I'm going to take care of you. I'm fine. I can handle it. I'm a dude. I'm a man. This isn't going to bother me, you know. And luckily, my wife will bring me back down and say, it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to struggle sometimes. I deal with some anxiety and PTSD from my military time and things like that. But um, knowing that I'm doing something to help her and help other people, such as the podcast here, I feel so much better. It
Mhm.
just makes me feel better knowing that I'm going to give back. So that's the best way I can explain it. Being a caregiver is knowing that I'm helping the person I'm supposed to help automatically makes me feel better about my own health. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And I think something I could pull away from that too is just your guys' level of communication seems to be pretty insane. To
It
be
is. Yep.
that I mean that level of vulnerable with each other and not be, the stereotypical like I'm a man, I don't feel nothing, and
Right.
then, trying to do that without communication. I think that's where you guys thrive. And I know I complimented you last time when I was talking with Ginger. And for those of you who haven't seen or listened to that episode, that was a couple episodes back, so you got to listen to it. But just how you guys thrive and you're always in each other's world, and you're correcting her on the dates of when things happened because she's forgetting. And it was
Yeah.
just, yeah, the communication and the openness, I think, is a good thing that I can pull away from you guys just listening to you, for sure.
And, and that's really important too, because of these two diseases that we both deal with. If we're not talking to each other, then how are we helping each other? So we've always, even we've been married to be 13 years this year. We've always been really good about talking about anything and everything together. And I told her, because when I was younger, I was the guy mentality. I, I'm good. I'm strong. I don't have to worry about anything. I can handle it myself. But when you come in contact with your, and I'll say soulmate, for lack of a better word, I don't necessarily like the word, but for the person that the Lord put me with, that God wants in my life, then it's easier. And I've told her, I said, if there's something that I can't say to you, I shouldn't say it to anybody else. Because if there's anything that I can talk about, I should be able to talk about it with you. And I've tell my guy friends that. I said, don't tell me something I can't repeat to my wife because I'm going to repeat it to her. You know what I mean? So, and before I lived that way, I was like, I'm not going to, tell my significant other that. That's just wrong. And what happens? People end up having two different lives.
Hmm.
They have their work life and then they have their home life. And I was determined because I had been married before. Was determined, and Ginger and I talked about this. I was not going to do that. We're going to have open communication, and this is obviously well before she was diagnosed. We're going to have open communication about anything and everything. And so whether we think it might make the other person upset or mad, we still have to do it, and we still do it. Ginger's really good about timing it for me because she knows if she has a subject that I'm not going to like, she'll wait till I'm in my best mood, and then she'll tell me then where I can obviously accept it a little bit better. But I think that's normal human reaction sometimes. But she's good at doing that. Me, I'm not so good. If I got something I got to get off my chest, I just go and tell her,
Yep.
regardless of how she's going to handle it.
Yep.
I just go, this is what it is. And then, of course, I'm all fired up. And she's like, hey, wait, why are you yelling at me? I went, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just really frustrated about this thing,
Hmm.
So, uh, but you're right, Andrew. We can talk about anything and everything. And I love that because there's no stress at home for me. There's no stress with my wife for me. There's not. And I got some friends, I'll say friends, from the military side that, if their wife goes away for a week, they're like, woohoo, guy
Hmm.
time. If my wife goes away for a week, I'm like, what am I going to do? Because we hang out together all the time. I'd rather go do stuff with her than most of my guy friends.
Hmm.
And as a military guy, I have a very small circle of friends. But if she's going to go back and see family on the West Coast, I'm just like, I don't, I'm not used to having this kind of free time, you know? I still go to the gym when she's here, so I guess I'll go to the gym longer. I
Yeah.
don't know. you know.
What would you say to somebody, because I think in a caregiver role, there's often those times where you feel helpless, especially with, Ginger having her flares and being hospitalized. You just kind of feel like you're helpless. You have nothing to do. I mean,
Right.
how do you overcome that feeling of helplessness? Or can you?
I know there's a way to get through it. I mean, I'll pray a lot, and unfortunately, I'll block myself from the Holy Spirit's direction, and I don't always do it when I'm praying. But my frustration goes up, and I have a really hard time of hiding it, especially when I know she's in pain, and I'm like, "Do we need to go to the hospital?" She goes, "No, not yet. I think I can. I think I might be able to push through." And I'm thinking, I don't think we ought to wait. I think we ought to go. But I'm going to listen to her because she knows her body better than me. And then by the time we end up going, she's in excruciating pain. You get to the ER, even though the ER we go to knows her and knows her condition, it's still going to take an hour or 2 hours sometimes of getting checked in and
Mhm.
starting pain medicine. And
Right.
then they have their own pain protocol, so she doesn't get enough. She's still in pain. She's crying. I'm getting frustrated. I start trying to talk to nurses and doctors, and they just go, "Yeah, whatever. We know what we're doing." Mentality.
Hmm.
And to be honest, I haven't found a good way of getting through that helplessness feeling, because as I alluded to before, when she's in pain and I can't stop it, it drives me crazy. I feel so helpless that I'm trying to do everything I can to make things happen faster, and they won't happen faster. They're not going to happen at the speed that I want it to, you
Hmm.
know. So if somebody's listening to this and has got a good way of getting through that helplessness feeling, please tell me what it is, because honestly haven't found it yet.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because I think that aspect that we hang on to is just not realizing that some things are just out of our control. And I think there's that aspect too. But then there's that timing aspect you can factor in too. And it's just like, well, if I just yell at this doctor, or if I just push this, well, I mean,
I
can we get
know,
in there a little bit quicker? So
I,
there's always that what if I can move that needle a little bit more, I think.
I know, and that's exactly what I've tried, and maybe out of 10 times it's helped once, you know, but I don't know why it helped that one time. It's just even the frustration of feeling helpless, and of course, I see a counselor and stuff like that too, and she's like, "So you're not in control. How does that make you feel?" I'm like, "Out of control," and
Yeah.
she's like, "Okay, but can you control it?" I go, "Well, no, I can't." She goes, "Then why are you worried about it?" I'm like, "Because my wife is in pain, and I need her to get help like now." And of course, my counselor's like, "Well, if you start yelling at doctors and nurses, does that make them move faster?" I go, "No. So what you have to be able to do is calm yourself down." I go, "Yeah, doc, that's really easy to say.
Hmm.
But if you're looking at your spouse who's doubled over in pain, crying, just looking for any sort of relief," I said, "What am I supposed to do?" And even my therapist hasn't given me a good response to that yet. Maybe I'll go see her again next week. I'll ask her again. Maybe she's come up with something new. I can see what she says.
Yeah, because I mean, I get on one hand, there's this self-soothing aspect where it's like you
Right.
have to have patience and just know that you're going through the process of doing what's right. But then on the other
Yeah.
hand, it's she's doubled over in pain. There's You want to be the best person you can be for her, but
Right.
how do you do that? How do you show her that you're trying on her behalf?
Well, and the good thing is, I mean, Ginger knows that I'm trying. I mean, we've taken her medical book into the ER before, and I've talked to, nurse, and I'm like, she has porphyria. This is what it is, and because most of the nurses never even heard of it. Now
Right.
we do have there's 2 or 3 ER doctors at our hospital that have dealt with her now. So if they're there and she shows up, they go, "We know the protocol. We're getting it started. We're going to get you admitted. We're going to get you on a PCA pump. We're good to go." And I'm like, thank you so much. And then things start moving along. It's just if there's a different ER doc or a new one, if it's late at night. he's at the end of his shift or whatever. It just, it's that I'm almost done with work. I don't have to deal with somebody new, or, oh, great, their husband, their caregiver seems to know everything or thinks they know everything. And I'm the doctor. And so that makes me more frustrated because I'm thinking to myself, um, my wife has one disease that we have both researched and studied for the last almost 3 years. You went to medical school, you learned a bunch of different things, and you learned a lot of different things. And granted, that's great. I said, but I know this one disease better than you do, unless you're a hematologist that deals with porphyria. You're an ER doctor that's looking for somebody that needs a surgical save right now. I totally get that, but I'm trying to let you know what my wife has and what she needs. And most of the time, the doctors will ignore me. And they go, "We know what we're doing. We got it. We got it." And I'm thinking, you really don't have it because
Mhm.
they'll bring in, like, we need to take a urine sample for a PBG test. I'm like, why? She's already been diagnosed with porphyria. PBG test doesn't tell you anything new, maybe
Mhm.
how high your porphyrin levels are, whatever. Oh,
Yeah.
by the way, they'll bring in a clear cup and go, just pee in this. I'm like, you already got it wrong. That's not how
Mhm.
you do it. So you tell me you know what you're doing, but you're showing me you don't know what you're doing, and you're just charging my insurance more money
Right.
for stuff that doesn't need to be done.
Mhm.
So could you tell I was getting a little frustrated during that conversation? I can feel
Uh,
it. I can feel it building up in me.
yeah. And I know I was when we were talking to Ginger, obviously being misdiagnosed for 31 years is crazy. But I asked her the same question about just how life looked post diagnosis and really if it's changed much. And I wanted to ask you, just from your perspective as the caregiver, just overlooking what it's looked like since that diagnosis.
Well, it has changed a bunch, honestly. And again, when I fully retired from work in 23, it was post diagnosis because I knew she was going to need more help. And up to that point, she'd been in the hospital loads of times. So I'm taking off from work. The good thing was, as a defense contractor, the guys I worked with, I had known for years. And so it wasn't a problem for me to get away from work to go help her, take care of her, or whatever else. But, you know, I, I am blessed enough that I have a military retirement. I do have some disability from my time in service. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to work. We can pay our bills. We're good. And that's, I'd really just like to be able to take care of her. So post diagnosis, we changed how we were going to live, which was we're going to go to a fixed income. I'm going
Mhm.
to be here 24/7 to make sure you're good to go. Because she does. I mean, yesterday she had a fainting slash maybe a light seizure spell. Luckily, she was already laying down. But it's those types of things I want to make sure I'm around for. So other things that have changed is travel. How do we travel now? If we're going to travel, it's going to be either a short period or we got to take our medical book with us. And I
Mhm.
don't even think about my MS when I'm traveling because I get my infusions twice a year, November and May. So I'm always thinking about what is she going to have to deal with. And well, I kind of already said it. The best way to look at it post diagnosis, we restructured how we were going to live. And it was me being at home, me taking care of her, whenever she needs it. She goes in the hospital. I stay in the hospital with her. I won't leave the hospital. I stay there with her because I want to know that she's getting treated fairly, that she's feeling okay. I can go and get her whatever she needs. Uh, and the nurses that are used to me staying in the hospital because they're like, oh, this is Mr. Davis. He's her husband. He's going to help take care of her. And so I think they appreciate it because they don't have to keep checking on her. But we adjusted our life to be able to manage this disease or manage her porphyria. And also, some other changes if you've already come in contact with her, is she is now an ambassador for APF, and I'm now part of the member advisory board. So all of those things have now changed, and it's
Mhm.
all changed for the better. And this, let's go back to what I said when I got diagnosed with MS in 2009. As a believer, I think the Lord puts you on paths that He wants you to be to make a bigger impact for Him, for other people, for people that need it. But you never know the timeline.
Hmm.
So 2009 to 2025, 2026, to him is a blink of an eye. To me, it's, geez, 17 years. Um, this is where we are supposed to be. And Ginger and I both have a strong belief and a strong faith. One thing that has helped with the diagnosis, we actually will pray together more because of this thing, because we don't know what it's going to do when it's going to do it. So it's just always asking for help, direction, guidance in our own lives, but also to make sure we can share this with other people so they can see it, so they could not feel like they're by themselves. We've noticed a lot with people with porphyria; they feel like they're the only ones dealing with it, and it's really nice to watch the impact that Ginger's now making through her TikTok
Hmm.
and talking with patients all around the world now, and just letting them know they're not by themselves. She has people calling her saying, "Hey, can I just talk to you for a minute?" And she will stop whatever she's doing and say, "Absolutely. What do you need? How are you feeling?" And I am so impressed with my wife. I really am. I was impressed with her before, but I am so impressed with her now to see the change that she has made um, since the diagnosis, because it was tough for her at first. She was really scared, rightfully so. I didn't know anything about the disease. She didn't know anything about the disease, but she has turned it into something as positive as she can make it for her. And man, what a huge impact it's made. And I, I'm glad I'm able to support her for this. I do not need to be on the leading edge of this. I will, make phone calls for her, whatever else, and she can have all the spotlight. I don't need it. I'm just so proud of what she's been able to do. And that's a lot of things that have changed since she got diagnosed in the summer of 23.
You know, and just kind of going over the TikTok and just the videos that Ginger and you guys make is just, I mean, again, we go back to the vulnerability aspect and the things that you guys show in the videos. I mean, nobody does that. I mean, the hospital
No,
videos, the
no,
crying, the falling apart. I mean, you see it all, and I think
right,
anybody, I mean, her comments show it. I mean, everybody appreciates that the vulnerability
right.
that she's showing. So,
And she's had people saying, "Why would you show that? Why do you show this pain, this, that, and the other?" And she's responded, obviously very nicely. She says, "I need people to know what this disease involves. It's
mhm,
not just happy-go-lucky days and, yeah, I'm not feeling good today. I need people to see what a porphyria patient is actually dealing with." And that is why her page is taken off, because she said so many other people that either have porphyria or another rare disease that causes pain that has
mhm,
said, "Thank you for showing this aspect," because people don't believe me. People say this, uh, or, you know, uh, she's had trolls on her TikTok say, "Well, she's doing a video. She can't feel that bad." And, I'm thinking, somebody who's never dealt with chronic pain before. And as you know, Andrew, people with chronic pain used to have an extremely high pain tolerance because they've lived with it for so long. You just put up with it. And, and some of her TikTok stuff, and I'll help her whenever she wants help. And so that's when you'll see me. She goes, "Let's do one together." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever you want, babe. I'll do
yeah,
it. What do you want me to do?" Um, I mean, she's had multiple videos that have hundreds of thousands of views. She's had one that's, I think, almost at 700,000 views, and it was one of her hospital stays. And I, I have a TikTok, and I've been doing it for a year, and I don't have nearly the view stuff that she has, And I'm just talking fitness and everything.
yeah,
She talks about this really nasty disease, and all of a sudden she's flying off, which is great. I'm glad she is, because she's loving it. She's loving it. She takes it as a, not as a job, but as a duty that she does every single day to be able to respond to people. She'll take 2 or 3 hours and respond to every comment that people send her. And I'm like, "Baby, you don't have to do that. That's a lot of comments." She goes, "I'm doing it. I'm going to respond. They took the time to comment on my post. I'm going to respond back." I'm like, "Holy smoke, man. How many people actually do that?"
hmm,
Instead of just hearting it and go, they heart it
right,
to recognize they saw it. She
right.
responds back to every comment people send her.
And I mean, it speaks volumes because I mean, it's such an avenue that's so crucial because I mean, like this podcast, I mean, you don't see that aspect of it. But what people don't see with the podcast is how we're rescheduling so many times because there's so many patients that are in the hospital that I'm trying to
Right.
interview. And then it's
Right.
weeks, and then it's weeks, and then it's weeks. And they're like, how come the schedule for this podcast is like not consistent at all? And it's like, we're interviewing patients who
Right.
are actually living this and going
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah. Because how many people on your podcast know you have porphyria?
A lot of people, but
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
But you know what I
but
mean? I mean,
yeah,
I mean, I know yours hasn't been rampant, but you know what
right,
it's like. You do
right,
know what it's like. You know what I mean? So, um, just because you're not laying in a hospital bed crying doesn't mean you're not dealing with it every day.
right, right. Yeah, and it's so true. I mean, again, I mean, you don't really know what anybody else is going through, but it's the vulnerability aspect, obviously, that we get a chance to talk about here, and you guys get to talk about on the TikTok. So
Yeah.
it's definitely cool and so appreciated that. And of course, now you guys are ambassadors and on the member advisory boards for the APF, which is awesome. But
Yep.
I wanted to also ask you, just for anybody watching, listening, I mean, if there was a piece of advice that you would suggest to them outside of obviously the communication aspect, what would you tell somebody that's just really hurting as a caregiver right now?
Two things, and one of them is still communication, but it's very important. Two things for me: if you are a Christian or you have faith, then make sure you pray because you're not going to do it by yourself. You are not humanly strong enough to deal with this disease as a caregiver by yourself. If you say you are, I think you're lying because it is too difficult to watch somebody you love going through so much pain and pressure, uh, and and all you can do is just hold on to their hand or hug them or whatever else. So your faith is a big thing for me. So I'll put that out there as one. Two is you have to believe them. You know, sometimes it's so easy to judge people, and we've done it all of our lives. You judge people, and you look at them, and they say, "I'm really having this kind of pain," and you look at them, and you go, "Hmm, are they really having that kind of pain?" If you do that, you're already on the backside of the hill. You're not going to be helping. You have to listen. When she says she's having pain, I believe her because before I didn't always take it seriously before her diagnosis. I'm just like, well, you're still walking around. I was that mentality of that guy. Well, she's doing a video. How can it be that bad? But after diagnosis and after talking with doctors and her hematologist and her gastro and what she was dealing with, when she says she's not feeling good or she's having pain, I believe her. I don't question her. I know that I need to try to help maybe slow this down, or can I get her a heating pad? She now has a body length heating pad, massage pad.
Mm,
Can I get that? You know, can you lay on that? Why don't you lay down? I'll get you some Tylenol. Is it time for pain meds? Can I give you a, you know, can I give you your narcotic pain med? Do I need to call your hematologist? I immediately go into that mode of what level are we? Are we at DEFCON 5 where it's not a big deal? Are we at DEFCON 1 where, holy crap, load up. We're going to the hospital sort of thing. Just listen to your either spouse or your partner or your family member, whoever you're trying to help. If they are telling you something, then you just gotta believe them. You have to if you want to be the best caregiver you can. Don't brush anything off. Anything. Even Ginger will say, "Oh man," she'll be walking around the kitchen. She'll go, "Man, I just feel really foggy. I feel a little dizzy." I'm grabbing her by the arm. I'm walking her to her chair. I'm like, "You sit down, and you don't get up for at least 10 minutes because I don't want her passing out. I don't want her, you know, fainting, and all of a sudden she's on a hardwood floor." I'm like, "No, just gotta listen. Gotta listen."
yeah, that's very valuable advice. And I wanted to ask, just because you gave this insight into some of the things that you do at home, but I wanted to ask, what does a routine look like for you as just a caregiver on a daily basis and being there for with her needs, and maybe giving people some insight into the little things that you do to make obviously Ginger's life better dealing with this.
Well, I can tell you on a daily routine, No, we both get up about the same time. It can be anywhere from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Depends on how well she's feeling. If I know she had a tough day before, and I wake up like at 6 and she's sleeping really well, then I'll climb into bed like a ninja and not to wake her up, and I'll go downstairs and start making coffee. I try to make her mornings especially, and really the day, as easy for her as I can make it. Um, Ginger is really bad at eating, 3 times a day because she's on the mentality of, I don't feel hungry, I'm just not going to eat, or my
Mhm.
stomach hurts. If I eat, it's going to feel worse. So I try to constantly feed her, whether it's going to be a bagel or toast or something I know that her body can handle or that she likes. And I'll make her a cup of coffee in the morning, whether before she comes down. Um, if she's looking for something specific, in the house, I know she's looking for, she needs her iPad or she's looking for her phone. I'll make sure that's all available. I try to make sure the kitchen's cleaned up before she comes downstairs because before her diagnosis, she was extremely OCD on cleaning. Now, when she tries it, she'll get herself really tired and then she's kind of out of it for 24 hours. So I try to take care of some of the cleaning stuff. I'm not as good as she is because I'm a guy and I'm like, it's not that bad, no big deal. She sees the little things that I completely miss. I'm like, hey, I cleaned the counter off. She's like, well, what about the sink? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I try to make her day as simple as possible. Like this morning, she came up and took a shower. I try to be around or at least close enough where I can hear her if she's in the shower. Because if she has an issue, leg pain or whatever else, or a spasm and she falls, I want to know that I can be right here. So I'm always just within, uh, or metaphorically, within arm's reach to be able to help
Mhm.
her at any moment, at any time. So eating, staying hydrated. Of course, coffee doesn't do that, but hey, it's a morning thing. It's part of her. It's part of her ritual.
Yeah.
Uh, and none of this is a problem for me because she's always taking care of me. When I was working full time and she was a stay at home mom, uh, she made sure we had dinner. If I came home for lunch, she would make me lunch, and I would never ask for any of that stuff. She just wanted to do it. So I want to make sure I return all of that favor as she's dealing with the disease that has already given her nerve damage, gives her issues each and every day. And it, unfortunately, being hepatic will get worse. She will still have flares. And I just want to make sure that I'm taking care of her in every aspect that I can. If she needs something from the store, then I'm going to go and get it. I will ask her if she wants to go. But if she's a lot of times not up to it. Like yesterday, I did grocery shopping yesterday. And yes, as a guy, I can grocery shop. I know what to get besides frozen dinners because I'm also a personal trainer and I'm also a nutrition specialist. So I know what things I should be buying. She doesn't like that because I'll get stuff that's healthier and she's like, but she has to eat it because that's what I'm making. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So our daily routine is just kind of I'll say a switch in roles as who is going to be responsible for the day to day stuff around the house. So I end up trying to do a little more than that because she'll start and then I'm like, okay, you've been doing this for 30 minutes. I need you to stop because she'll push herself. Her back starts hurting. Her leg starts hurting. Her stomach starts hurting. I'm like, okay, baby, you've done enough today. Well, I need to clean. I went, no, I'll take care of it. You're done. You're not doing any more today because I've seen her do it so many times in the past. She'll push herself like most women will, and she'll push herself to a point where now she's down for the count for maybe not hospital, but she is in a lot more pain for 24, 48 hours. So that's a long answer to a complex question.
I mean, I think that was a good response because I'm just kind of thinking about pulling from what you said in terms of the arm's length aspect because there's a lot of people out there who are probably in the situation as a caregiver and they just keep asking. They're like, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And it's like, how about you just shut up? And then,
Yeah,
you get that
yeah,
interaction.
right.
And I think with that arm's length analogy that you put out. I think it's also just being an observer and not so much asking all the time, but saying,
Right.
you're almost like hovering in a sense and just saying like
Almost.
you're
Yeah.
taking something off, some weight off their shoulders, or yelling at them if they're if they're doing too much.
I know.
But
That's exactly right.
I think that's a good point. That's a good point. I wanted to ask you too, before we wrapped up, if there was anything that maybe you wanted to bring up that maybe we didn't touch on so much that maybe you wanted to chat about here.
Um, Between you and I, not so much, but for anybody else that's listening, or maybe a health professional that's listening, or things like that, we need to get hospitals more involved, not only just ER departments, but uh, as this disease becomes, I'll say, more prolific, they're seeing it more and more. Hospitals need to listen to their patients. You know, we've had issues with her being in the hospital and not getting enough pain medicine because the doctor left it kind of open ended, 1 to 2 milligrams, depending on her pain level. She'll say
Hmm.
her pain's bad. The nurse will think, I don't think it's that bad. I'm not going to give you all of it. We've had that issue before. I need hospitals to understand the disease and understand that the patient isn't lying. If a patient comes in and says, I have porphyria, and they have a port, they're not there looking for drugs.
Hmm.
They are in a no kidding flare. There's a lot of hospitals that don't want to give out narcotics because people are drug seekers and all kind of stuff, which I completely understand that. You got to be able to evaluate. But if you have a patient that's been in your hospital, 8, 9, 10 times that year, because they have a diagnosis of porphyria that's in the computer that they can see, they're not
Hmm.
drug seeking. Listen to them. Listen, listen, listen. And that, I don't know, maybe I could go on a speaking tour and go talk to hospitals, but I don't think I do very well because I'm a type A military personality and I do a lot of knife edge stuff. And a lot of people don't respond to that too well unless
Yeah.
they're prior military. Then people get upset and think I'm screaming, and I don't want that to be the thing either.
It's so true though, because I think every single podcast guest that we've had on here has had that same response where it's, you're drug seeking, it's all in your head.
Yep.
And it's just always that, even though you have this full history of diagnosis. I mean, who would want to be in the hospital 8 to 9 times a year? I mean, just for
No.
giggles, like.
Exactly right. And when she gets admitted, she doesn't get more rest. She gets less rest because every 4 hours they come and check her vitals. The good thing is recently part of her protocol is they put her on a PCA pump. So that helps with her pain management. But they still have to come in and check it. They still have to come in and check her vitals. And her sleep is 10 times worse in the hospital.
Hmm.
So it doesn't get better. She doesn't want to be in the hospital any more than I want her to be in the hospital because she
Right.
will sleep so much better at home.
Hmm. Yeah, I wish there was just that understanding and not the assumption that, I get it. I mean, there's a fine line
Yep,
to,
there is.
they have to evaluate the drug seekers, but on
Yep,
the other hand, it's like, can you really make that call for somebody who has this history that we talk
right.
about? It's
Yeah,
crazy to me.
yeah, same. I don't know. I don't know how to fix that, and it's not going to be an easy fix. It's going to be something that needs to go back through maybe their initial training or whatever else, because most doctors have not even heard of the disease since medical school, and most doctors never even treated it. Not till you get to your hematologists or some of your oncologists that have dealt with, porphyria or other blood diseases.
It's so, yeah, and it's just it's making me think of my hospitalizations, where they're not as frequent as most women with this disorder, where you know I I was in I was in once a year at a time, and I was already told, hey, we can't give you this pain medicine because you have this history of it. And I was like, once a year I'm in here,
Yeah.
and you guys are already knocking me, and I can't have the pain medication that I need to 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 get out from this. I mean, I'm 6'2", and I'm curled up in a ball. I'm like,
Something's not right.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you can't give me something because I'm supposedly drug see. It's just,
No,
I would
no.
scream it from the rooftops. Maybe we do need a military a voice to just yell and knife them
Well,
around. So
Ginger just did this porphyria patient meeting last week up in Richmond, and I got to speak a couple. I got to speak some piece on that too about this exact subject. Because people were talking about how doctors wouldn't listen. I said we got to get up and scream about it. I said two things are going to happen: either they're going to listen to you, or you'll be escorted out by security. I said, I'm sorry, I don't have a middle in there. It is, I want the help now, or you're going to continue to hear from me until I get the help. But the other thing I can say as a caregiver in the hospital, if you're not getting what you need, you immediately go to patient advocacy and tell them what's going on. Uh, and you call as many people as you can. I mean, we've had APF call the hospitals before
mhm.
and speak on our behalf. We've had um, drug company patient advocates call the hospital and talk on our behalf. All those things will help. So that's now where I try to lean instead of me standing on the end of the bed screaming and yelling before security
Mhm.
shows up. I try to go through, the foundation before, and try to hit all the points that I can to help her before I'm like, okay, I've had it, and I go to my side.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a good piece of advice too, because I think people, yeah, it's easy just to sit there on the bedside and just tear apart this nurse when in reality we could just be like, who's your manager? Let me talk to your
Right.
manager. Or
Yep. Charge.
who's
Yeah.
the chair
Charge
up?
nurse. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big thing. Charge nurse, patient advocacy, talk to the doctor that's treating. And you're there in the hospital, dude. You can hit that little red call button as many times as you want. Either they're going to be tired of you hitting the button to come figure out what's going on. And I will admit, all the nurses that Ginger has had, the majority of all the nurses have been great. And I never blame the nurses for what the doctor says they need to do because they're following orders. They're following the protocol that the hospital has in place to keep themselves safe. Totally get it. Um, I'm just looking for the way to who do I need to talk to make things better or to make the treatment better while she's here and while it's happening. The
Hmm.
good thing for Ginger is her hematologist, Dr. Bozow, actually has privileges at her hospital. So he can walk right over from his office and come see her when she's in the hospital. So
Hmm.
that's a big plus. And I don't know how many other porphyria patients um, have that ability available to them. I mean, that's a lifesaver for us. That helps a lot.
Yeah, and I think if people are in, those situations where they don't have the best staff, is obviously reach out to the APF. I mean, there's so many
Yep,
doctors and that can help, and we have so many specialists that you can
exactly.
reach out to and have a situation like that. And for the people listening, watching too, I mean, we had Dr. Bozow on a podcast, so you guys
Yep,
can listen to whose podcast. So, uh, yeah, I just figured that would probably be a good time to wrap up. I just wanted to thank you
yep.
again for taking this time to chat with me and just kind of go over, because I think although we do have episodes with caregivers, I think it's very important to keep talking about and keep the conversation going, because it's a hard role to play. And I
It
think
is. It is.
it's easy to downplay that when obviously the patient is the center of attention. So
Right. And I love doing it. And I can tell you though, as we wrap up here, that if I was still working full time, I would not be the caregiver that I'm doing that I am right now. There's just no way I'd be able to do it. I am blessed that I was able to no kidding stop working and be able to take care of her full time. And that has been a big blessing for me. And it's not a burden for me at all. I don't know. I guess maybe it's part of my calling, as her calling is to help porphyria patients. Maybe mine is to be able to take care of her, so she can do more for her side.
things work in mysterious ways, but it's
Yes, they
amazing.
do. It is amazing. I love that part of it too.
Mhm. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate it too.
Yes.
Thanks for letting me be on.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with friends, family, or anyone who could benefit. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your preferred platform. It helps us spread awareness, and we would be extremely grateful. You can also follow Rarely Discussed on Instagram, YouTube, as well as TikTok. If you're someone Seeking diagnosis for porphyria, visit porphyriafoundation.org to receive a free doctor packet, forms for free DNA testing, and a list of doctors in your area. Stay tuned for more episodes of Rarely Discussed.